Welcome, my name is Colleen Tauke. I'm the sewing specialist here at Fons & Porter. In this Quilting Quickly tutorial, I'm going to show you how to put together the blocks for the quilt called With a Twist. If you'd like to purchase this pattern or any of the tools you see, please visit our website. We're going to be using 10-inch pre-cut squares, and we're going to be adding a background fabric and a couple of fabrics for borders, a navy blue that really sets off that frame, and then finish with a great green daisy kind of print and some fun striped binding on the end. But the blocks are really fast to put together. So from those 10-inch squares, we're going to, or from those coordinates, we're going to take the navy and the lime green, and you'll notice if you look at the centers of the quilt, all of the centers alternate back and forth between the navy and the green. So in this example, I have a green in the center. Now the only other thing we need to make is triangle squares to put together here. And so what we're going to be doing is taking the triangle square, our two squares of fabric, and we're going to mark them, put the light one so it's easiest to see. We're going to put them right sides together with a darker print, and I'm going to take a ruler that will extend the diagonal of the 10-inch square, and this one's just long enough to get across. Now I'm going to be marking this with a diagonal line. That is going to be the very center, and I'm going to stitch a 1/4 inch either side of that. If you aren't so secure in where the 1/4 inch seam is when you're on top of a piece of fabric like that, you can go in and actually draw the stitching line 1/4 inch to each side of that center dividing line. It just depends on how comfortable you are knowing where your 1/4 inch seam is when you've, my center line isn't very dark there. My pen didn't quite pick up everything. We'll put it in there so you can see it a little better. And then I can go 1/4 inch on the other side of that line. And then I'll have stitching lines that go parallel to each other there for that direction. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Put that center divider in first so I have a reference for where I'm at. My machine on this one, I know that a 1/4 inch is off the edge, so I'm going to leave that there and stitch. So it can be either way. You can either sew each side of one line, or you can put in both of the lines if you'd like. Depends on your comfort zone and how much sewing you've done and how comfortable you are with that 1/4 inch seam placement under the machine. So what we're going to do is we're going to stitch both directions, and we're going to create 8 triangle squares at one time. So we'll go ahead and stitch. Now you would use more of a coordinating thread. I probably would use either a white or a light gray if I were doing this at home for a project, but of course we're the queens of red thread at Fons & Porter. We like to let you see where the stitching actually goes. And a little trick that once you get to the end, you can pick up, rotate, jump across that line, and stitch down the other side without breaking thread. Makes it a little bit faster. Down the other side. Now I have one that's prepared in both directions already stitched, but I wanted you to see this is a really fast and easy process, especially if you're a new quilter and you've got that stitching line marked. It would be easy stitching for you to get across that. Now I've got this one stitched in both directions. We'll bring it in here. Now what you want to do before you cut anything on this, because we're going to cut this apart and create all kinds of triangle squares, is you want to go and set that seam so that it's nice and flat. We don't want to have any ripples in that 10-inch square as we're cutting. We want to have a nice flat surface to cut on. Just a little tip. Sometimes your sewing machine can kind of create a ripple across your block. You want it to be nice and flat. Now I've brought in a rotating mat just because this way I can cut from a safe direction on camera for you, and you can do the same at home. You could layer mats one over top of the other if you've got a large clumsy mat, a little one that can rotate. What you're going to do is take a ruler and you want to cut kind of like windowing. You want to cut on the 5-inch here and the 5-inch here. So we're going to drop this ruler in at the 5-inch line here. It should go through the crosshairs kind of the X that you have stitched across this block. So we've got one here. can rotate easily. Again, at the 5-inch mark, do this cut first, then we come in and we can do the diagonal cut. Now this part you could cut with scissors if you really preferred, but since we have it already laid out and already lined up, it's just as easy to come in and do the diagonals with the rotary cutter. And I'm going to create all 8 triangle squares in the right color combination that I need for my project. So we've got all 8. Now, you know where they go next. They go to the ironing board, because every time we do a nice seam, we always want to have a nice crisp piece of patchwork to work from. So we've come in here, we'll heat that fibers up just a bit, pick up that dark side and press toward the dark, and just repeat that process down through, letting the ironing board kind of pick up the heat of our iron and help us in our ironing process. Just layer one after the other, kind of like potato chips. It's really easy to do. Once you get these all pressed, then you're going to want to come in, start to lay out your pieces, and you'll see that at the center, and since I don't have my diagram, but I have the actual block here, I can then lay out the pieces in the same manner as my block here. So I would start, you notice that this creates kind of a blade in the fan as it goes around. I'll press just one more and we'll have that, at least half of them laid out. And then you'll see that you always have to be double checking yourself to make sure that everything's spinning in the same direction. So we want this one here, that wide blade kind of effect. And you would finish with the rest of the 8 that you've created. So once you get all your blocks created, then make sure that, tip, when I was laying mine out, I wasn't thinking and arranging them, and then you realize if you want all of the pinwheels going in the same direction, make sure you're always laying them in the same pattern, because it's possible to twist them around and have 1 or 2 blades going the other direction. So with a twist, they all spin kind of to the right. We've got an inside navy blue border, that fun green and binding, and you've made with a twist. If you'd like to see more of our Quilting Quickly tutorials, please visit our website. Thanks for joining me.